Once you have an Azure subscription, you can simply go to portal.azure.com and you can actually log into your account. Now I'm already signed in with my account. I stay signed in with this one account here, but this is what you get once you authenticate into Azure. Under favorites, a few things that show up here. First is Azure Active Directory. We're interested in that. If I want to create user accounts in Azure, there's an option here for users. So you can go through new user and you can simply fill out this form and you'll have a new user account that shows up in Active Directory itself, or we should say in Azure Active Directory, which everyone just calls AzureAD. Your user you create here could sign into Microsoft 365, like Office 365. You could sign into applications in the cloud. So truly an account that you could use to access these online resources. I can also have my on-premise accounts synchronized to Active Directory. We will see that in one moment. So if you have a user in your Active Directory domain services on-premise, they will show up here. I'm going to go back to the default directory here. I can also create groups. So you could have new groups that show up here, similar to what you would have in your on-premise environment. Now, if we go back to default directory, instead of computers, you can have devices, but they can be like Windows 10 computers. They can also be mobile devices like iPhone, Android. Those types of devices can be registered in Azure, so you can manage access to your resources and put restrictions. You can even configure those devices. So if I want to scan your mobile device for malware, I could make sure your mobile device requires a PIN number. Depends on what my needs actually are. You can also create virtual machines. We will actually do that. You can create virtual networks that exist in Azure. So the resources you create, like applications, virtual machines, they will run on these virtual networks within the Azure fabric itself. If I want to backup and restore, we have recovery services vaults. So everything you can configure in Azure would be available through this portal. Very powerful overall. These are the most common things that you will actually work with. Whenever you create anything in Azure, that thing gets put in a resource group. A resource group is nothing but a collection of related settings for your solution. For example, if I wanted to create a new virtual machine, I'm just going to click Add, Virtual Machine, and you'll see here the first question, what resource group do you want to put it in? Well, if you create a virtual machines have to have a hard drive. They have to have a network configuration. All those types of things associated with a virtual machine will get placed in a resource group. So just a collection of configuration settings, components for whatever you are creating. Now, I say that now because we will create a virtual machine later in this course, and we'll set up a few other things, and you'll keep seeing it always asks us to either use an existing resource group or to create a new resource group, and that's where all the components of that solution actually live. So in this course, the main things we'll focus on related to Windows Server 2019 will really be Azure Active Directory, and we will look at some virtual machines that run Windows Server 2019 and how you can manage those, how you can connect to those. And we talk about backups because it's very common that we now back up to Azure from our on-premise environment.